welcome back. It is Natural 2 once again. I am James. He is Nathan. For a split second there, I was worried I was going to get that backwards. That would have been...
It's not
would we
important.
would we stop or would we just keep going?
Well,
You know?
apparently we would, because we're still going now, so.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't a mistake. This was intentional.
Mm.
Um, we're we're playing fast and loose tonight a little bit, a little loosey goosey. We are going to talk tonight about modding D&D. This is different from house rules because I say so. Uh, it's it's inspired by the old Steam workshop, playing a game on Steam and going and seeing the tweaks and additions that other people make. At least for me, that's what it is. So just discussing the ways in which we make the game our own, and not just as DMs either. Like this also comes out of a special little request that I had for our campaign recently.
Mhm.
Just a fun thing for me. You know, that's what makes the world go round. How to transition into the actual topic here?
Well, I
Yeah.
think one of the great examples, because like you brought up modding as kind of like the inspiration of this topic. We've touched upon Skyrim for various videos before, but like that's one of the broadest, I guess, nets you can point to for modding and like making the game different because one person's Skyrim from the next person's Skyrim can be completely different games and
Right.
unrecognizable, and that same concept kind of comes over to D&D as well. So that would be like my little jumping off point, or at least the connecting dots to get us from point A to point B.
And I guess just to make myself feel better, I I think of house rules. This is not house rules, and I'll tell
Hmm.
you why. I think of house rules as being meta, right?
Okay.
It's like having a crit table that you roll on when you get a nat 20, or
An injury
uh
chart or a decision on something or something.
right, or spells that you are just banning from your game, or
Hmm.
things like that. Like those are house rules. I think of this as being more like in world, in character, things that you're going to interact with your character, not so much a function of how your character is going to work.
Hmm.
And so what I was asking for, and this is actually an idea that I had back in 3.5 and used in that campaign, um, was the idea of like every character has a backpack. And it's funny because backpacks almost never show up in people's character art.
Yep.
And you don't think about it, you don't, so often it's like I swing from the chandelier and do a
Hmm.
720 somersault and land on one foot on a candlestick on a side table
Hmm.
and
With a
stab this
200
guy
pound backpack on your back.
in ear. Yeah, and it's like, oh, where's your stuff during all that? It's
Hmm.
up, it's on there. I haven't exceeded my weight limit.
Hmm. Yeah, I got
So
my
it's fine.
bedroll and my shovel and my 300 feet of rope all tied to my backpack.
So this is more of a flavor thing. This is like a headcanon thing more than anything else, because I don't think we've really ever made it a thing in our game either.
Hmm.
Just a backpack with snaps on the straps. Just quick release buckles. It's not this is not a technology. You can make them with hand tools. It's
Hmm.
not some modern technology to have a buckle
Or it could
that
just be even like a little metal latch that you just like pull out of a
a
ring.
metal latch, something
Hmm.
that you just squeeze it or touch it and it opens.
Hmm.
And so the last time that I went shopping with my character, I'm gonna find a guy that can just put some buckles on an ordinary backpack, not a magic item, uh, that makes taking the backpack off a like free action.
Hmm.
Or you can do it as part of a move action, or use it as your object interaction, or either way.
Hmm.
So just the mental image is that stuff hits the fan, fight breaks out, it's time to go to fight mode, and it's just snap, snap, drops to the ground. Worry about coming back for it if you survive.
Hmm. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm also trying or attempting to kind of approach this subject that you're offering up because I'm still somewhat a little bit vague about like the actual definition, but it's not so much the personalization of the game in the broader sense where you look from like one group or one table to the other and see the same game being played different ways. It's the personalization of the more, I guess, unique or individual elements, like a character's addition to a game, or their certain requests or desires or wants based on their preference or their character or their motivation. This would also probably come from the DM as well in adding certain things or tweaking little things or providing different parts of the game based on requests. Is that kind of more along the lines?
I Yeah, I don't think it's, I don't have a real strict definition,
Hmm.
but there again, I'm just thinking in terms of like stuff that you're going to interact with within the game,
Hmm.
not above the game.
Hmm.
Uh, and I have an example from what you do, what you've been doing, which is you like to have magic items lately that are just a little shitty. You got to crap them up a little bit. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's not the first, like you did it back at Isbiliath a couple of times too, and
Hmm.
it's very much feels like you modded the game to make it harder. uh
Hey, to be fair, the ratio between clean magic items and cursed magic items has been 1 to 1 so far, but the meme does persist.
well, 1 to 1 is still a hell of a ratio when it's usually like 99 to 1
Hmm.
in the game as as written, let's say.
Hmm.
But tell me about like the feelings and thoughts behind that, and what that adds for you as the DM.
Yeah, well, so I think a fair amount of it probably does come from my personal approach to enjoyment, which is challenging myself or making me think.
I think
Um,
you mean flagellating yourself. Well, let's do some
yeah.
background here. Let's do some background before we get into this. You want to abuse yourself during
Hmm.
your leisure time activities.
Hmm. I am a
Uh,
glutton for really making it difficult for me to succeed because I find the most amount of enjoyment from that. So the magic item curse does stem from that to some extent, where I like the idea of providing a give and take with it because it makes you guys think instead of just like, ooh, magic ring, put it on, cool, let's go. Like the most recent, or I guess the most relevant example is the ring of water walking, which then also increases your fall speed by double. So you are trading, potentially taking more fall damage for being able to walk on water. And so I think that's interesting because, again, it provides more depth than just, ooh, ring of water walking. I have that on now and I do that now, but I do understand that the purpose of magic items in D&D is to start allowing the party to do these more fantastical elements, but I just like the idea of having to pay some price for it. So that's where it mostly comes from, and I hope that it translates into more engagement in the long run, I suppose, and there is the very slim amount of enjoyment that I get about handing you guys an item and you're like, oh, how is this one cursed? And I'm either sitting there like, oh, you don't know, or it's like, it's not cursed at all, you little shits. So either way, I get a little bit of self enjoyment as well. So.
Now I'm just picturing this shop in a city in the campaign that's like Oliver's discount magic items,
It's
and
all the rejects that nobody wants.
they're all broken in some way, but they're
Hmm.
significantly cheaper than the ones that don't have drawbacks.
Hmm.
Like a
I
bag of
love it.
holding, it's like this is, it's a bag of holding, but if
Every time
it
you
ever
take an
takes
item
fall
out,
damage,
a
then
random
nothing
item.
inside. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really do like that shit. I enjoy some chaos. I'm certainly not the most chaotic agent within our group, but there is a part of me that enjoys just injecting that into the game and seeing how it goes. So if a magical item can do that every so often, or a random roll can do that every so often, I will lean into that when available. So yeah, that is, I guess, my mod, Nathan's little mod to our game is I enjoy tweaking and messing and I don't know, adding or subtracting, I guess, from your perspective, the magic items that we have in our game. So
Well, if it were a mod, it would be like Nathan's magic item rebalance,
yeah, yeah,
overhaul, something like
hmm
that.
yeah. So
Um, I'm trying to think of other examples. I can't take credit for it. There's I can't remember the name of the channel either. So I apologize for that. But there is another D&D YouTuber that talked about filling scroll tubes with like sand or broken glass or something, and then you can use the scroll tube to this is 100% like not in the book. You're not going to find it in the player's guide, which is also kind of what this is about for me, but fill the scroll tube with garbage and then fling it in the eyes of opponents,
hmm
uh and work out with the DM, what that gets you, like blindness for one turn or something like that. But
hmm Well, like stepping away from specific examples and kind of talking about the topic more broadly, I think it really boils down to the relationship between, I guess, the singular player and the group, or the player and the DM, and the two of you or the group as a whole coming together to like work out the gray areas that aren't quite covered in D&D, I guess like canon or lore or rule books. Like whenever you're trying to use pocket sand to blind somebody. Like, that's not covered in the rules, but I imagine there's a fair amount of people who would want to try that or attempt it or include it. And so it's this, like, understanding, and it's almost kind of, I guess, bonding experience to sit down as a group or sit down as a player and a DM and be like, okay, I want this. How do we make this work? Oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? Oh, no, let's, move that up and down, tweak this here and there. And I think that's one of the special things about it, or one of the appealing things about it, is it really does allow you to precisely tinker with your game and bring things to it that ultimately add to the enjoyment, which is something that again you see in the modding community in video games, but we have a more direct interaction with, or a more limitless interaction with, within D&D. So
that's yeah, I don't have anything to add to that other than that's a I agree with that statement.
thank you. Got the seal of approval.
That's right. Um, no, I don't. I've always leaned toward, as much as I'm a fan of D&D, I was happy to come back to it when I kind of rediscovered it sometime after 5th edition was released. And there are things that I like about it, both in terms of sort of the fandom and the community, as well as the rules themselves. But I always lean toward some personalization. I have never played in any of the official settings from 5e. I've played in Greyhawk because my DM was a fan of Greyhawk, and so Greyhawk is kind of is it still an official setting, or it was formerly an official setting?
I don't know if it ever becomes unofficial, just not
They've
current.
never. The point is, they have not updated any Greyhawk material since 3.5,
hmm
with the exception of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which
hmm
is a location they lifted from Greyhawk. So they took this thing out of Greyhawk and crowbarred it into Forgotten Realms, or whatever other setting you want to call. But
hmm
my point is that, with one exception, I have only ever played in original settings, homebrew settings, um, and that that attitude persists into like items and equipment and magic items.
hmm
Lots of items that you won't find in the book, just sort of getting ginned up. Um, and I think, you asked me before we started recording what the point of this conversation was, and I don't. Who needs a point? We just like to gas on here. But if there were a point, I would say that it is this. This is already an imagination-based game. So if you imagine something like that, you can probably find a place for your item that you've dreamed up, or for this tweak that you've made. Like, oh gosh, this would be the perfect thing if we could just change this one aspect. So it's also a way that you can sort of get away from magic items for a while if you're trying to keep things more grounded, or if you're trying to come up with interesting loot for a low level party. You can add something simple, something utilitarian, and think that will make players think, oh, that's cool, that's really neat. And it doesn't have to be straight up magic or straight up like bonuses to numbers. I like my quick release backpack idea. And you may never ask me where my backpack is, but after I buy it, for the first like half dozen fights, I'm gonna be like,
As I stride in, I
I
release the
drop the
snaps.
backpack
Yeah.
and I go. Like, I'm gonna bring it up because I'm gonna be proud of it. But um, I guess I also love the idea of crafting, and this is something we could do a whole episode about. This, I'm making a note right now. Here I am. I'm writing it down. Stand by.
Well, I feel like what I'm about to say might lead directly into what you're saying. Is it's always fascinated me that there is a whole part of the community, and it's probably even the lion's share of the community, that plays 5e and plays 5e. Like they follow the rules, they play in the settings, they run the adventures. Like they don't homebrew their own stuff. They don't go outside the normal scope of what D&D is. They almost even follow like Adventure League rules to some extent. And that like baffles me, because even when I was a kid and I was reading the 3.5 books and I like never even ran a game, I'm sitting there like, oh, that's cool, or that rule is interesting, but I would rather do this, or this seems so much cooler, or why wouldn't you do that? And like reading all the settings books, it's like, oh, this is really neat and there's all these cool ideas, but oh, I could do this or add that. Like I'm plagued with immediately wanting to create my own thing or make my own twist or adjust something. And so it's always weird that I've never engaged with the like traditional 5e ecosystem, I suppose. Which it sounds like you're pretty similar, which is strange.
It's yeah. I feel like Adventures League is a terrible idea.
I think it
Um,
has its place, is the best way to put it.
and the worst experience I ever had with D&D was playing at a convention, which I don't know. I'm not the biggest convention person anyway, but it was the most like dry, aggravating experience. Like, I can't recommend it. Go to a convention to shop or to meet artists that are going to be there or whatever, but don't go to a convention to play D&D. Play D&D at home with your group. Anyway, that's my little side. That's my aside for this episode, one of several. But that's absolutely true. And also, um what I was leading into just then that I was making a note about is crafting. That is one thing that for some reason D&D across all editions has been piss poor at, and I don't really get it. And I can't. 5e is no exception, and I've looked into it. I've bought books, specifically because there was updates to crafting in there, and I want to find out, all right, have they made this usable yet? And I just don't understand what they're going for. I don't understand
It's
the
so bare
philosophy.
bones. All like the best example is like crafting healing potions, or like making healing potions is like the best example of like just how dry it is. Like there's absolutely no.
Not only dry, but it's like there's no benefit.
Mhm.
You can
It
either
doesn't
buy a
add to your
healing
character at all.
no, well, you buy a healing potion for 50 gold, or you make
Mhm.
one with materials that cost 50 gold.
Mhm.
and you can either buy one from a store or you can spend like 2 months of downtime to make one potion or something. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
And there's no like
Uh,
random chance of like slightly getting a better quality one or one of the different effect or like it's just like I do X and I achieve Y and here's the time and money I spent on it.
I something I cannot keep myself from doing. If we find if we find a cool monster, I was gonna say a dragon, but it doesn't have to be a dragon. Any
Mhm.
reasonably large monster that looks badass. Uh, whether I'm playing a paladin, a wizard, it doesn't seem to matter. I want to take a knife and I want to monster hunter that thing,
Take
take the
something.
skin, the nails, the
Mhm.
teeth, and carry this bloody wheelbarrow into town
Do
and say
something with
like,
this.
somebody make me armor with this. Uh,
You come in with
so
a
that
wheelbarrow full of eyeballs and they just glue a bunch of eyeballs to chainmail.
that's another mod that I have installed in my personal D&D experience. I've still got the deer hides from our Talora game, like the horns. I've got that on my
Mhm.
sheet. What do you think that quick release backpack's made out of? Deer skin I hunted myself
Mhm.
because that's how I like to have fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the best way to kind of almost wrap up and really conceptualize what we were talking about is like crafting in D&D is incredibly not deep, like shallow is the term I was looking for.
Not
And
rewarding.
yeah, not really. There's so many, I guess, like quote unquote issues with it. And so when you stumble across it and it's something you are interested in, the first response for most people is, okay, how do I fix it? How do I add to it? How do I make it engaging? And then making it your own. And that's really kind of the process that I think we've been discussing just in various different ways is finding something that's not quite right and then making it right for you or your group or your game as a whole. So.
And not being afraid to do
Mhm.
that.
Or
You know.
enjoying it would be like the goal, like actually enjoying the process of figuring it out and tweaking it and getting it correct,
Yeah.
instead of just enjoying the end result.
So if you're a player, take that weird idea to your DM. If you're a DM, invite weird ideas from your players. And this is where I'm going to say put your weird ideas in the comments and like and subscribe while you're down there. And also while you're down there, I said this last episode, but nobody watched it. I don't think one person watched that video.
A couple have at this point.
Last time I looked, I don't know what it was about it. I don't know.
I think
I
it's our
need some new
faces. People are just getting tired of them.
I need some new shirts maybe.
We should put on some disguises, like thick mustaches and something like that.
Also, this probably isn't helping either. My background, I look at other YouTube videos. My spouse watches like videos of people cleaning their house and
Hmm.
decluttering and things like that, and it's so bright. I mean, you could see two ants playing rock paper scissors on the counter behind these people. It's
I thought you were gonna
so
go the route of having like RGB shit all behind you and like plants and leaves and Christmas lights and all that bullshit.
it's something I don't know, or like put some lights back there for my wading pool Twitch stream.
I would
But
pay to see you do a hot tub stream.
but maybe it just needs to be. Well, no, it would be like a plastic wading pool from Walmart.
Hey,
I
that
can't get a
counts.
hot tub in here. Uh, or I'd have to take a GoPro to like the YMCA and just do it there. Uh, so I don't know. Maybe is it too dark? Is that part of the problem? Put it
I
in the
like it.
comment. Put that down there. Put your weird ideas down there. And what I was originally going to say is mailbag episode. I want to do
Mhm,
one, and I don't want to get all the questions from our friends and family. So,
mhm.
uh, put them down there for that episode, which will be forthcoming. Um, let's just say soon.
Well, it's
TM.
also for your benefit because otherwise it's going to be me and James interviewing each other, and we know how well that goes.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't have to be D&D related. You know what?
Mhm,
Like if there's something back here in this mess that you just want to know what is that and why is it back there,
mhm.
uh, we'll cover it in that episode if you ask about it.
The question's just like, why do you even exist, James? What is your purpose?
My purpose is to. You don't need to ask. I'm going to tell you right now. My purpose is to love life and spread joie de vivre to as many people as I can.
I am 100% getting you a neon live, laugh, love sign to put in your office now.
Only if it also is like a I want like a blacklight unicorn poster.
All right, I'll put it on the list.
Yeah.
We'll revamp your setting.
Speaking of episodes that we should do later on, maybe we should just do a whole episode where we goof off.
Yeah,
The whole episode is the end of the episode.
that would be interesting. I'm curious what that would even look like if we just had absolutely no direction for 30 minutes. We might
Is
talk about
that
fighting gorillas.
is that so our 1 year mark is coming up also, dear viewers. We have very nearly been doing this for one full calendar year without missing a single week. I think that deserves a thumbs up and a subscribe. Um, but maybe that's our year mark episode, is just
Talking about
a
whatever.
happy hour, anything goes, doesn't matter.
Well, only time will tell, I suppose.
We'll find out. Anyhow, come back next week, where we will have another one out, as we have for nearly a year, faithfully.
Man, I forgot you mentioned that. Thank God you remembered.
So, yeah. And until next time.
Have a good one.